Hollywood. And then when her parents got divorced, she moved to Polish-Italian Boston and spent her high school there, times there. You may not know that she started one of the very first drug awareness programs in any school in America back then. She ran a Quick Trip, and who was your night guy? Steve Carell,
was my midnight guy.
Was her midnight guy.
I was at a convenience store.
It was a convenience store. She's been a convenience store manager. And then
I was a manager.
She was a manager
for 24 hours.
Steve Carell,
he was my midnight guy.
The 40-year-old virgin guy. So then Anna came here and went to school. She has a philosophy degree, that highly marketable degree.
Oh.
And during which she lived in the basement of the Zen Center and meditated. And then she went about, had her life, painted, did the band scene.
You don't have to say everything.
I was just getting to the good part. and was a stewardess when she had her head shaven, or when she became a Zen Buddhist monk.
I wore a wig. That looked just like, what's her name? Tia Leone?
Tia Leone. People would confuse her for Tia Leone. And then
I'd have to show them it's a wig.
And then moved in and became a Zen Buddhist monk at a monastery. So, and that's where I met her when I was trying to find some place to take my kids to sort of engender spirituality. Some place we wouldn't have to drive home and say, no kids, we don't, that's nice, but we don't believe that. So, unlike most Zen Buddhist monks, I shouldn't say that. What distinguishes Anna as a Zen Buddhist monk is the fact that she's hot. You know, hurry up. She looks like a French model. So finally, an Oklahoma boy found a way to marry her. And so Anna and I have been married 5 years. So Greta and I get to experience the wonder of Anna, who goes about all the time, if you know her, doing good, working with great teachers in the schools, doing the senior citizens groups, other adult education, but just the Mother Teresa of meditation in our town. So that's the introduction. So Anna Zumi! I got practice with that, brother.
Okay, before I do the talk, can everybody just do like a power stretch? Like raise your hand. Big power stretch, because I actually read an article that this lowers cortisol, so the stress hormone, and it raises testosterone, which I never thought was good for you, but I guess it actually is, for relaxation. And it makes you feel good, right? So next time you go in for a test or an interview or whatever, do your power pose. If I had a desk here, I'd put my feet up on the desk. But anyway, Michael, thank you for such a great introduction. Gretel, are you zooming? Are you zooming in and filming it? Okay, awesome. Usually I'm the filmer. So as I was sitting there, maybe I had some periods of time where, my mind was totally clear and I felt like I was levitating. I don't know if this happened to any of you guys, but most of the time my mind was, thinking about a bazillion different things. Did that happen to anybody else, that you think of different things? Only a couple of people. Okay, Bob. A couple of people were thinking about things. And then I thought, well, since I get to give the talk today, I'm going to talk about what I was thinking about. Except for that, I'm not going to, even though everything I was thinking about was really interesting. I started a talk a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't finish it, but on roots and containers. And we had a talk scheduled for tonight for today that I was really excited about, but Miguel and his family actually spontaneously moved to Florida, so I'm pretty bummed about that. And when they come back to visit, they'll come and visit us here, but they had a family vacation to Florida, and I don't know the details yet, if they have family already there, but I I got an email saying that just out of the blue, they made the decision to move there. So I have mixed feelings. I'm really sad, but I'm also really jealous because I think there's an ocean over there. And I think it would be fun to live there. It doesn't snow. So I thought I'd just, rather than bore everybody with the beginning of my talk that I started giving, I thought I'd just continue. So I went a couple of weeks ago, or now a couple of months ago, I went and did this retreat. A friend of mine, Lita, invited me to do a meditation retreat in the mountains of the Pyrenees, up north of Barcelona. And I didn't know what I was going to expect, but it was nothing of what I expected. The mountains there, Ursula, you've done a lot of traveling. Have you ever been up in the mountains of the Pyrenees? It was incredible. There were, I mean, it was just like out of a Chinese painting. They're very steep and very, very lush and very green. And the clouds and the mist, just go in the valleys, and it was really lovely. So that was a big part of it, and tons of birds, like in the morning, just being woken up by this cacophony of birds. But the reason there's so many birds there is because, like Oklahoma, there's tons of mosquitoes there and tons of insects there, very lush. And this place, little farmhouse, is made from these rocks. Now we have all these other technologies like Michael's smartphone or maybe your smartphone or the car that you drive. But back then the technology they had was how to turn these stones, these hard rocks, into square pieces, which, believe me, if my life depended on it, I don't think I would be able to do without injuring myself. But they have these rocks that are square. And a lot of these rocks, back when they had that technology to make rocks square, it was back in the 1500s, back when this area was actually a popular pass for people either moving from whatever direction from north of the Pyrenees, what is now France, to the south of the Pyrenees, Spain, or back and forth for various, religious or political reasons. And then sometimes people would think, wow, this place is a great place to hide, which I think probably was one of the reasons why they used that area. And they'd use it as little hermitage. They'd have little places to hide out and just, have you been there before? That was incredible. So over the years, people, and then people would build castles there out of these, that's probably, the castles were probably the place that actually employed, a lot of these people to do the hard work of making these rocks into these squares and then putting them together. And then over the years, those castles would crumble, or, pieces of them would be borrowed and then used to make these hermitages or these little refuge places or other houses and farmhouses. So it's not like, Deer Valley now where there's, a house right next to each other. They're actually, you might see on the, on the top of that other hill, you'll see another little, stone castle ruin or farmhouse or whatever, and then over here there'll be one. And so the place where I was staying, a couple, and Ilsa's from Amsterdam, from the Netherlands, so she and I did this retreat with a group of her comrades in Amsterdam. So do you know Corey and Leo? Yeah. So they bought this place about 10 years ago, and it was crumbling, and they pieced it together, and it started, it was a little Zen center that, you're sleeping in your sleeping bags in one little room, and people are sleeping in sleeping bags over there. And then my friend Lita, who some of you may have met in, for whatever reason, and maybe someday when she comes to visit soon, we'll meet her here. But she immediately, when they started building this place, said, of course, I'd be delighted to lead a meditation retreat there. So she's been leading meditation retreats there, and her students from Amsterdam, take the 2-hour plane ride or drive down for a day or 2 days, and there. So over 10 years, you can just imagine. And believe me, this place, it looks like a Thomas Kincaid. You know, all know Thomas Kincaid pictures, the puzzles that you love putting together with the flowers and the stone. I mean, this place it looks just like what he was painting. He probably was inspired by places like this with the flowers and the stones and just beautiful. Little fruit trees, gardens. And so over 10 years, this place kind of built up to a place that, when I stayed at a couple months ago, was actually quite comfortable. We only had hot water every other day because it was all solar. You know, we had everything set up solar for water and for electricity. We were encouraged to turn off our lights when we were using them. But it was actually pretty plush from what had been described to me over Lita's 10 years of doing these retreats here. There. So it was amazing. She said to me, come and do this retreat. And I said, oh yeah, I'll do it. So finally this year, and this is where my story a couple of weeks ago dropped off, she said, so Anna, you're coming. Do you have your plane ticket yet to come to do the retreat? I'm like, well, no, I've got so much going on, and I just don't think I can do it this year. Well, you are doing it this year, and the plane ticket's bought, and you're coming, and this is what we're doing, so, you know, just make the plans and make sure you're on that plane, and then you meet me at the airport, you know, on this day, and blah, 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 right? So, okay. So she got me again. I told the story of 911. Now she helped me get away from myself for a couple of weeks. So she did it again, right? So I wasn't excited to leave everything that had been going here, you know, this Sunday group and classes and other things, but okay, I hit the pause button on everything else. I got on the plane and I got over there. And I get over there and so I'm the only one that doesn't speak Dutch, and the thing is in Dutch. So which was kind of nice. But she introduced me. Well, it is, especially if you're doing a silent retreat. It's really helpful if you can't understand what the people that are being silent are saying, right? So you can kind of stay in your little enlightened little bubble. But they were really kind. Everybody actually knew English to a degree or not degree, and were able to practice it and got really good in English over the course of the
While they were being silent.
We'd have talks. And during a meditation retreat, which I hope you all do at some point, if you haven't already, or even if you have, there'll be a meeting at the beginning that says, okay, so this is the structure of this retreat, this is what's going to happen, right? Well, the structure of that retreat was that, is this boring to everybody? So is it boring to you?
It's all good.
It's all
Brother 13, everything's boring.
I asked her this morning, I was telling her something really insightful, and I said, is this boring to you? She said, yeah. So, my talk will get really interesting in a couple minutes.
You're going to describe the murder.
Yes. Okay, so where was I? So then Lita introduces me at the talk, at the introduction, as the special guest. And I thought that was really interesting. At first I thought she was kidding, but actually she had me, there were a couple of classes, or teachings, or whatever you call them, talks. And she did 2 of them, and I did 1. And Leo, the host, which I thought was wonderful. And during the talks, they were all conducted in English for my benefit. Yeah, it was wonderful. And then also, it really hit home at the end of the meditation retreat when she actually, I don't know if how many of you here have ever done a talking circle? It's kind of from the Native American tradition, and there's a talking, and I know you've done one, and the talking stick is passed around, and is that it's an opportunity to speak from the heart if you want to, and you don't have to. You can be silent if you want. But that the person that's holding the talking stick or the talking feather or the fan or whatever it is, they speak from their heart, or at least have a moment to see what comes up. And everybody else has the opportunity to just listen, which actually is huge, because in my family growing up, we never had that opportunity to just talk or just listen. You know, it was always, if somebody else was talking, that was your opportunity to start really thinking about, okay, what am I going to say? What's my rebuttal going to be, or whatever. And if somebody else, if you were talking, it was your opportunity to think, no one's listening to me. So learning the talking circle was really huge for me. And so we did that. At the end of this retreat, everybody had the opportunity to share what they got out of the retreat, which was really huge. And usually in Zen, which is the tradition that I was raised in meditation, and I think Isabella, you probably have more of a mixture, or maybe. And Ilsa, you know, it's like in Zen, you're just quiet, and no one wants to hear what you have to say. We're supposed to just listen to the teacher, which actually is good training, but there's also this benefit to sharing at the end and listening to what other people have to say. And then at the end of that, Lita said something that really shocked me, which was that she had never done that before. I actually introduced her to that, you know, about 20 years ago. So that, that's really when it hit home what an honor it was for me to be there. And that, because I've learned so much from her over the years, and it was really interesting. It was humbling, actually, ironically, to hear that she had learned something from me, you know, or at least been introduced to something from me. So, so I'd like to open it up. You know, we're not going to pass the feather or anything, but I'm going to open this up to discussion. You'll see how I'm going to get out of giving a real talk. Because, and the other thing that was a huge honor for me being at that retreat was that I was the bell ringer, the timer. So the official Zen term is jikido, which means that you're basically the caretaker of the retreat, right? You, the first person to wake up, you wake everybody up, ding, ding, ding. You know, you're not supposed to be talking, so you give these signals by the bells. And like Andy rang it 3 times. And that's the language, the bell language, that, okay, now we're going to start our meditation. He rang it 1 time, which was, okay, now we're going to end it. If he had rung it 2 times, it would have meant something completely different. Right? If he had done a different kind of ringing, it would have meant something completely different. And I had done meditation retreats in the, Japanese monastic tradition. And one of these retreats was actually, there were over 1,000 people there. There were probably over 100 monks there, so we could be in one building. And it really hit home how important it is to be on time and to know what the language is, because you're not only communicating, it's not like you can just stand up and say, okay, what those bells really meant, but I kind of messed up, was blah, blah, blah. No, because you're ringing the bell, and the jikido in the other building has to hear you, and also, and all the people everywhere else have to be able to hear you and know what's going on. And to coordinate like 1,000 people, that's like clear communication, right? I mean, how often do you just talk to, your husband or your wife, and it's like, well, I thought you meant something else, and you're speaking in English, the same language. So anyway, I was the jikido for this retreat. And I was also training Lita's, because she has a group of students in Amsterdam, and I was training one of her students how to be jikido for other retreats. So that's a huge honor. And at a certain point, I hadn't done a meditation retreat in years, I mean, I've been like in the meditation retreat of family for the past 5 years, 5.5 years, but you know, I haven't done a Zen retreat in a while. So I was a little rusty with my bell ringing and my communication. So finally, Giannis says to me, not in these words, but basically, you don't know what you're doing. I thought you're the expert at this. How come you don't? And I'm like, Giannis, I'm a little rusty. Believe me, by the time I pass the bowl over to you, you'll know what to do, and believe me, everything will be good. But I explained to him, you know, it gets in your bones and in your muscles, right? It gets to be muscle memory, but it's